Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I was just looking over my PowerPoints and thinking about what we're going to talk about here in the very first of the video blogs for the start of A&P 2. It's always a little bit daunting to me, and I'm sure it's daunting to you too, when we think how much material we have to cover. But don't get hung up on that. All right, so I was just looking at these this printout of the PowerPoint slides, and I see the title slide plus the next 5 slides are dealing with the organizational structure of the nervous system. And the nervous system is kind of a direct wired means of communication, control, gathering information, all of that. It's one of the ways that physiology is controlled. The other one we mentioned, is the endocrine system. The endocrine system functions in a similar control mechanism as a control over physiology. But now what's different is this is like the old-fashioned style telephones where you had a wire connecting one location to another. And what this is nerve cells. Nerve cells are really, really long, up to you have a single neuron that extends from your spinal cord to your big toe. So, they can be really, really long and very, very narrow. So anyway, when we talk about the structure of the nervous system, we have the central nervous system, which consists of your brain and spinal cord. And then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is the connections from the brain and spinal cord out to your body. And that's going to consist of the 12 cranial nerves plus the 31 pair of spinal nerves that are extending out away from the brain and spinal cord. So we have 12 pair of cranial nerves and 31 pair of spinal nerves. I'm just looking down at my notes. So when we talk about, we have this central nervous system, which is going to be handling sort of the integration, that receiving the information and thinking about it and deciding whether or not to respond. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That's the role of the brain and spinal cord. Now, when we talk about, and that's central nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is, again, this connection out from the brain and spinal cord to sensory structures or even just free nerve endings. And this is where you're gathering information and or responding to what has happened. So we have, in terms of the sensory division, we have the somatic and the visceral. So what is somatic? Somatic means muscle, and then visceral is referring to your guts. And so we have the sensory division, and then we have, and that's receiving information, monitoring what's going on inside of you, finding out if somebody just poked you, you feel it. And then we have the motor division, and we had said this is going to be carrying outputs from the central nervous system. And so this is where you're adjusting physiology or pushing somebody away who just poked you. These are the kinds of things that are being done. So we have the motor division is going to involve, is connected to the somatic sensory, right? But then we have the autonomic nervous system. And autonomic means self-governing. So the autonomic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that is controlling physiology. And so with the autonomic nervous system, what it's going to do, this is only in the motor side. So when we talk about the autonomic nervous system, we're going to be talking about outputs. And we'll talk about how we have two different sides to it, the sympathetic side and the parasympathetic side. And they're going to be controlling things and in general having an opposite effect from each other. We have a whole chapter on that, so I'm just mentioning that. But the autonomic nervous system, in terms of what you need to know for now, is going to be controlling physiology. And what do you control when you control physiology? You control glands and certain kinds of muscles, smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, and then secretion of stuff from glands. Okay, that's slide number 3. Okay, we have another entity, completely separate entity from what we've been talking about, and it is the enteric nervous system. So this is not under the autonomic nervous system. This is separate from it. And what it is it's a neural network. It's a network of neurons that's associated with your guts. And it operates independently, controlling things like digestion and so on, even without the central nervous system. So it's a standalone network of 100 million neurons, a whole lot of them. And it is going to be monitoring what's going on inside of you, including, and this is the interesting part, including the information that it receives from your gut flora. So the gut flora, this is the microbial community within your gut. And so oftentimes, if you eat a lot of sugar, so I'm giving you an example here. If you eat a lot of sugar, your body will crave sugar. Now, why is that? That's because the microbia like it. They like all that sugar that you eat, and they send a signal to your brain. So the enteric nervous system, even though it's independent of the central nervous system, it communicates with it. And what it's going to do is it's going to be communicating with the central nervous system in a manner that relates to desires. And we know, if you know anything about depression, oftentimes people that are suffering from depression, they'll tend to put on weight. And the reason they put on weight is that this gut microflora is saying, yeah, if you feed me, I'm going to send signals to your brain saying, we are happy. And so there's this cross-talk through the enteric nervous system, this independent, standalone nervous system between the gut flora and your brain. And what's really kind of weird is this is sort of new stuff that's coming along, is that they're starting to try and understand how can we change that. So if you have a gut flora that craves sugar, you're going to tend to want to eat sugar. Is there any way to change that flora such that you don't have those cravings? And so with the rise in the health problem of people being overweight, people are trying to figure out how to do this. Now, how would you do this? Well, one way to do it is to inoculate your gut with microflora from that are different from you. Now, where do you get this microflora? Poop. You get it from people's poop. And so believe it or not, this is actually being done. The Olympics, they're always working to come up with ways to make somebody better, and they say, well, we've got this guy over here who is so fast, Usain Bolt, the fastest runner in the world, or who can swim so fast like Michael Phelps. And they say, hey, can we have a sample? Yikes. And they, put it into a capsule and give it to somebody else, and maybe it'll help them be really, really fast also. Okay. So anyway, we have this structure. The structure of the nervous system, we had said it consists of the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and then the connections going out, the 12 cranial nerves and the 31 pair of spinal nerves. That's the peripheral nervous system. And then we had said, in the mix with all of that, we have the enteric nervous system, which is a neural network of 100 million neurons associated with your gut. All right, we're going to move forwards now, and on the next video blog, I'm going to start talking about neurons. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.